Hello and welcome to Mitv Primetime News, coming to you live from our broadcast studio here in Lagos. Hi, I'm Teresa Adeyemi. We begin the news tonight with the top stories. Suspension of fuel subsidy removal will result in more borrowings. Senate steps down amendment of the National Transport Commission Establishment Bill 2022. Stampede rocks Ekiti PDP governorship primary election. From the foreign scene, Russian, Ukrainian advisors to mate over tensions. Sport. An Australian Open, Mitv fights back to win 5-set thriller. Now the news in details. The President, Muhammad Buhari, will visit Zamfara State on Thursday. Governor Bello Matawale disclosed this during an emergency meeting with all political appointees at the Government House Council chamber on Tuesday night. The governor said the purpose of the president's visit was to commiserate and condole with his administration over the recent terrorist attacks in Anka and Bukuyum local government areas where many people were killed. Matawale said all is set to ensure the president is received successfully. The governor urged the entire people of the state to remain law-abiding during the president's visit. The presidency has said Nigeria may have to continue to borrow due to the suspension of the removal of fuel subsidy. Special advisor on media and publicity to President Buhari, Femi Adesina, stated this on Wednesday in Lagos. According to Adesina, all prices have been fluctuating globally for years as a result of one reason or the other, particularly due to COVID-19 since 2019. It stated that the price witnessed a decline as low as $30 per barrel, but later rose above $80 per barrel. The Senate last year approved some loan requests by the government, which included the approval of $6.1 billion, as well as the $16 billion, over $16 billion and $1 billion loan requests in July and November, respectively. An initial announcement to remove fuel subsidy in June was rejected by individuals and groups accusing the government of inflicting more sufferings on Nigerians. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, on Monday said removing fuel subsidy at this time would be problematic, thus the decision has been suspended. The Senate has stepped down a motion seeking to amend the National Transport Commission Establishment Bill 2022. The motion for recommittal of the bill to the Committee of the Whole was sponsored by the Senate leader, Yahaya Abdullahi. The chamber relied on Order 1 subsection B and 52 subsection 6 of the Senate Standing Order 2022 as amended. Senator Abdullahi also recalled that the National Transport Commission Bill 2022 was passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives and sent to the President C&C, but assent was withheld with observations. The lawmaker further noted that after critical examination of the observations by the technical team of the National Assembly and critical stakeholders, it was imperative to address these observations and make necessary amendments in order to rejig the transport sector of the economy. Senator James Manager, however, advised his colleagues that the motion for recommittal of the Transport Commission bill be stepped down until when details of the observations raised by the President are detailed in a report. The President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, who shared Manager's view, said the areas observed by the President on the bill should have been highlighted because not all of them were there.
Senate recalls that the National Transport Commission Establishment Bill 2022 was passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives and sent to the President Commander-in-Chief for his assent. He withheld that assent with some cogent and copious observations. Senate observed that after a critical examination of the observations by the Technical Committee of the National Assembly and critical stakeholders, and desirous of the need to address these observations and make necessary amendments in order to rejig the transport sector of our own economy, and relying on Order 1B and Order 52, subsection 6 of the Senate Standing Order 2022 as amended.
Well, before we kickstart the consideration of the bill, from what the Senate leader said, the bill was not assented to by Mr. President after it had been passed by the two houses, and that the President sent back the bill to the National Assembly with observations. And this is a very voluminous thing. It's important for the Senate leader to avail members the observations of Mr. President, so that we also take note of that while considering this particular bill. The point raised by Senator James Manager that the areas that the President observed as critical for him to assent to the bill should have been highlighted, or at least somebody should have spoken to them, because not all of us here were there at that time. And
the House of Representatives commended the resurgent military coup in the West African sub-region. This motion emanated from the recent Burkina Faso military takeover, which is becoming a frightening emerging trend in West Africa. Moving the motion at plenary on Wednesday, Julius Humovebere from Edo State noted that the interruption of Burkina Faso administration by the military is the fourth time in 6 months in the sub-region. House of Representatives correspondent Linda Ike reports that the House is worried that if the trend is not controlled, it would erode the democratic achievement made so far and promote tension to community citizens. Contributing to the motion, lawmakers urged that the political leaders should try to fulfill their campaign promises to prevent military takeover of government. House urged the federal government of Nigeria, United Nations, as well as international community and its agencies to impose total sanctions on those countries where coup d'etats have taken place in West Africa. It will be recalled that Burkina Faso a few days ago witnessed the overthrow of President Roch Kabore.
Transited from military to civilian governance in 1999, there has been a strong sense that the days of military coups are effectively over. But with this emerging trend, that positive perception is now being reversed with the rather quick successive coups in their formation countries, alarmed that coups subvert political processes, promote tensions and violence, suffocate democratic spaces, suppress basic freedoms, contain civil society, and promote corrupt and undemocratic governance.
In another development, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate unclaimed funds in Nigerian commercial banks and the infraction by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The motion was sponsored by Honorable Dachung Bagos from Plateau State during plenary on Wednesday. The House is worried that despite the introduction of Bank Verification Number, which is BVN, by the Central Bank of Nigeria to curb the menace in the financial sectors, about 71 million customers are not yet linked to their BVN against the directive of CBN. The House, however, set up another committee to investigate the suspicious and unclaimed funds sitting with commercial banks and unremitted funds collected on behalf of agencies and departments of the federal government by commercial banks.
Also worried that the recent disclosure about the funds collected by commercial banks on behalf of some key ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government to the tune of 1.2 trillion in revenues they generated but failed to remit to the Federation's account since 2016 as required by law. Also concerned that some commercial banks have refused to remit to the government fees and levies collected on behalf of government agencies and departments in the last 10 years.
The federal government has urged parents and caregivers to utilize the COVID-19 mass vaccination by bringing their children between age 0 to 23 months to vaccination centers across the country for immunization against childhood diseases. The Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib, made the call recently during the briefing of first COVID-19 vaccination update with the media in Abuja. He also stressed the need for integration of the campaign for childhood immunization and other primary healthcare services alongside COVID-19 mass vaccines to protect the children from preventable diseases. Correspondent Linda Ike reports that Dr. Shuaib further added that the aim is to counter outbreaks of childhood vaccine, preventable diseases, while seeking to control the transmission of COVID-19 in the country. Dr. Shuaib further charged the state governors to support the healthcare services by ensuring that the populace within their constituencies get vaccinated.
To integrate the campaign with childhood immunizations and other primary healthcare services. What this simply means is that alongside the COVID-19 vaccines, childhood vaccines will also be available at the COVID-19 vaccination sites. Consequently, parents and guardians with children aged 0 to 23 months are urged to take them along to the vaccination sites. The childhood vaccines protect against polio, whooping cough, measles, yellow fever, tetanus, tuberculosis, and other childhood preventable diseases.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has flagged off the Okpebi Odoyalaro Maryland Ojota link bridges and approach road as part of the administration's effort to reduce traffic gridlock often experienced around Okpebi, Mobology Bank, and Tony Mende corridor. Our correspondent Fauzia Gbadinyoka Bakari now reports.
Waste of man has on Okpebi, Maryland, Ojota, especially during peak hours, will become a thing of the past, as the state is working to balance the growing population and infrastructures. The state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said the link bridge will further promote the socio-economic development of the state. He said the link bridge was another landmark infrastructure development and implementation of traffic agenda in the state.
Today, we're also writing our name, and if I dare say so, we're writing our name into the history of this great state. We're all here to witness another landmark in the infrastructural development of our great state. Like has been said, this project has been conceived way back over 20 years ago. In fact, 21 years ago. Indeed happy that God has given us the opportunity to take this bold step to be able to connect a major artery of Lagos from the Koshofe Ojota axis to the Ikeja Onigbongbo axis.
James Faleke lauded Governor Sanwo-Olu's administration for the project, which he said would provide employment, especially for people in the area.
Great pleasure that I welcome you all to the flag off of this all-important legacy project, the construction of Ojota Okpebi Link Bridge with the approach roads. This landmark project that is about to be embarked upon at this time in the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is another clear demonstration of his huge commitment towards discharging the social contract he signed in May 2019, coming on board in embarking on major infrastructure that will further promote socio-economic development of Lagos State.
This program, these major legacy projects, legacy in the sense that it is going to open up Ikeja for development. Legacy in the sense that it's going to create jobs for our people. Legacy in the sense that business environment will be better off. Touch so many of our roads, especially the Awolowo stroke, the Agege Motor, the link road. Thank you for doing that for us.
The total project length, which is 3.89 kilometers, consisting 2,829 meters road length with 276 meters deck on Pearl Bridge and 474 meters mechanically stabilized earth wall approach sections, will be completed in 20 months.
The Oyo State Judicial Panel of Inquiry into police brutality, violation of right of citizens and unlawful killings on Wednesday submitted its report to the state governor, Seyi Makinde. The governor commended the panel led by retired Honorable Justice Badejoko or Adeniji for the thorough job they did and thanked them for their services. He promised that his administration will implement the recommendations in the report. It was a rowdy situation at PDP primary, the venue of the People's Democratic Party, held in Ado-Ekiti on Wednesday. Delegates had raised alarm over the delegate register used for the primary election, a situation rectified by the governor of Akwa Ibom State, who is also the chairman of the primary election committee. One of the gubernatorial aspirant and senator representing Ekiti South, Abiodun Olujimi, said she has lost faith in the process and has decided to pull out of the contest. Other aspirants agreed there are itches in the process but vowed to await the outcome of the exercise. The chairman of primary committee, governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, appealed to the aspirant and their delegates to peace and order.
A letter that I was pulling out of the process. The reason is very simple. I am the only standing elected official of the PDP in this state. And it has pleased our party to say that all the fights of 2 years where we were complaining about the hijacked congresses will favor one person and will go against me completely.
We're just hearing it from people, right? And when the accreditation team came, when the Congress team came, we're not even aware, we're just being informed, and they haven't started accreditation. Normally, the list of delegates ought to have been published and made it public before this accreditation. That was not done, and that is not that means due process is not properly followed.
I think the process is moving through properly, but there are a few skirmishes here and there. Some of them are being rectified and some of them are not. Some people's names are completely absent. I hope that the number of people who should be on the list that are not will not be significant enough. I hope, but there are some little skirmishes.
I'm not in for all those intrigues and so on that people are trying to do here. Everybody must behave well. If you don't behave, you find yourself in Uyo this evening. So we must maintain discipline and everybody must be up. I have the authentic delegate list here. You can see it's stamped from National Working Committee. Okay? So you can see everything is stamped, acknowledged. This is the list we're going to use. We're not going to use anything outside this.
An expert at Morgan Capital Securities and economic analyst Rotimi Olubi says electioneering for 2023 general election in Nigeria may likely increase foreign portfolio outflows and cause foreign portfolio investors, FEIs, to remain on the sidelines. Olubi would disclose this at a forum organized by the Capital Market Correspondent Association of Nigeria, KEMCAN, and Lagos on Wednesday. Said domestic investors would be the key players responsible for the movement of the market and liquidity. Speaking on the theme, a review of 2021 market performance and factors that will shape it in 2022. It listed all the factors expected to cause further outflow, to include rate hikes and capital controls by the monetary authorities. Olubi explained that electioneering, rate hikes, and capital controls by the monetary authorities are expected to cause further foreign portfolio outflows and cause FEIs to remain on the sidelines. The security expert says being an election year, government spending is likely to be at its highest, complemented by improved oil revenues. He said that this would lead to wider fiscal deficit and further increase in an already elevated debt servicing cost. Olubi opined that there would be more decline in foreign participation in the Nigerian economy in 2022.
As economic activity improves and there is more enhancement on insecurity increases, self-reduces. So there's this oneness. So should we have those? It can reduce and it will not stop completely. So you can see that it's not just in our hands alone. We also will have our role to play by continuing enlightenment and all that. But we have gotten to the lower head. They are aware, they know. So could be seeing a change in terms of governance approach as we progress into the future. God is also on the scene. those that are there. So in terms of that, Nigeria, we've gone through a lot of shocks. We've been out. I don't think we've gotten to that level where we want it to scatter. People have to make stakeholders in this country.
That's all from the local scene. We go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you a report from the foreign scene. Please stay tuned.
Be like her. Start your year right. To all employers of labor in Lagos, you have till 31st January to file your annual tax returns. Visit etax.lirs.net and log into your e-tax profile using your company's taxpayer ID and password. Select the returns module, the appropriate year of returns to be filed, the returns type, and download the appropriate template. Then click on File Returns to upload the updated returns template. Take notice that failure to file your company's annual tax returns on or before 31st of January 2022 is a contravention of the extant provisions of the Personal Income Tax Act, which attracts stiff penalties on defaulters. This message is from the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, LIRS.
You're watching Mitv Primetime News. Now to foreign stories. Russian and Ukrainian political advisors are set to meet for the first time since the crisis over their borders began. Wednesday's four-way talks in Paris, which will also be attended by France and Germany, will start at 12:00 local time, that is 11:00 GMT. The meeting marks a revival of the group's so-called Normandy format talks, which last took place in 2019. It comes as the West, led by the United States, is threatening to impose sweeping sanctions on Russia, including personal sanctions on President Vladimir Putin should it attack Ukraine. Russia, which has amassed thousands of troops at the Ukraine border, denies it is making plans to attack its neighbor and blames NATO for undermining the region's security. Qatar Emir will hold talks with U.S. President Joe Biden on January 31st on a range of issues, including global energy security, according to the White House, amid concerns over gas supplies to Europe. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani's scheduled visit to the White House, the first since Biden took office last year, comes as Washington discourses with energy. Producing states and firms a potential diversion of supplies to Europe if Russia invades Ukraine on Monday, reports said U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken discussed the matter with the Foreign Minister of Qatar, a top liquefied natural gas producer, in a phone call. White House Press Secretary James Saka said in a statement the Emir's meeting with Biden will provide the leaders with an opportunity to discuss ensuring the stability of global energy supplies. Other issues will include promoting security and prosperity in the Gulf and the broader Middle East region and supporting the people of Afghanistan. Washington is concerned that Russia, which has massed more than 100,000 troops in its border with Ukraine, could invade its neighbor, triggering U.S. and European sanctions that would prompt the Kremlin to halt deliveries of Russian gas to Europe. The European Union would only be able to find alternative gas supplies in rather smaller volumes from a multitude of sources to make up for a Russian cutoff, according to a senior Biden administration official who spoke to the Associated Press news agency about internal deliberations on the condition of anonymity. Kurdish-led forces in Syria have said another 250 ISIL fighters have surrendered as the United States-backed forces attempt to clear the last part of a prison seized by the armed group last week. At least 300 ISIL members handed themselves in on Monday as the U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces commandos moved into the facility in the northeastern city of Asaka. Clashes continued on Wednesday as the SDF tightened a siege on the prison. Dozens are still thought to be holed up inside, along with guards held as hostages and several hundred children. More than 160 people were killed in battles between the SDF and the ISIL fighters after the armed group attacked the Kurdish-run Gwaran jail on Thursday. The disease includes 114 suspected ISIL fighters and 45 SDF personnel, according to the UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. It was the biggest attack by ISIL in Syria since the fall of the so-called Caliphate in 2019. Meanwhile, the United Nations Children Agency UNICEF said on Tuesday that fears have grown for about 850 children caught in the crossfire in the Syrian prison. Up next is sport-related stories. Please stay with us. You're still watching the Mitv Primetime News. Now talking sport, Anthony Martial will play the remainder of the season on loan in La Liga with Sevilla after falling out of favor at Manchester United. French international Martial has reportedly taken a pay cut to join the Andalusian club, who it is said will pay €6 million for salary and the loan fee combined. United interim boss Ralf Rangnick revealed last month that Martial had asked to leave the club in January after struggling for first-team football following a return from injury. Rangnick then claimed in the wake of United's 2-2 Premier League draw with Aston Villa that Martial was not with the squad because it didn't want to be involved. The forward refuted those claims while Rangnick drew a line under the situation. Inter United were negotiating exit for several players ahead of the transfer deadline, and Sevilla's tactic of playing the long game has paid off. La Liga's second-place side were linked with Martial last month, but reports suggested they could not get anywhere near the players' wage demands, and United were seemingly unwilling to lower their own demands. Daniil Medvedev defeats Felix Auger-Aliassime in Australian Open quarter-final set-up just 4 clash with Stefanos Tsitsipas. Daniil Medvedev saved a match point and recovered from 2 sets to lock down to defeat Felix Auger-Aliassime and reach his 5th Grand Slam semi-final. The world number 2 is looking to become the 4th man in the Open era to follow a first Grand Slam title by winning the next major tournament, but his chances were angered by a trade when Canadian Auger-Aliassime won the first 2 sets. Medvedev hit back to take the third but went match point down at 4-5 in the fourth, only to save it with a big serve. Take the set and claimed a 6-7, 3-6, 7-6, 7-5, 6-4 victory after 4 hours and 42 minutes. Medvedev and Auger-Aliassime met in the semi-finals of last year's U.S. Open when the former prevailed in straight set and rode to winning the title. Medvedev survived a match point at 5-4 down in the fourth and reeled off 3 games in a row as he began to combine power and precision to level matters and tee up a decider. After fending off 3 break points in his opening service game, it was Medvedev who broke decisively in Game 3 to claim an advantage that he clung onto in the face of spirited resistance from his Canadian opponent. The Russian now faces a rematch against Greek Stefanos Tsitsipas in the semi-final of the tournament. And just before we end the Primetime News tonight, a quick recap of our top stories. Suspension of fuel subsidy removal will result in more borrowing. Senate steps down amendment of the National Transport Commission bill. Stampede rocks the Ekiti PDP governorship primary election. From the foreign scene, Russian-Ukrainian advisors to meet over tensions. Sport. Australian Open, Medvedev fight back to win 5-set thriller. And with that, we draw the curtain on the Primetime News tonight. From the entire news crew, I am Teresa Adeyemi. Do have a great night. Good night.